Hey everyone, it's Kong back again with another episode of Should You Summon. As always, I'm going to be presenting high-level overviews to help you decide whether this banner is worth your hard-earned vouchers and crystals. This month's banner is for even more new Langrisser mobile original characters, Patricia and Gunn. I guess I don't need to keep saying even more Langrisser mobile original characters. The last time we got characters from an actual Langrisser game was over a year ago when Joa and Connie came out. Anyway, this banner will run from March 28th to April 24th. As a raid-up banner, any SSR you pull has a 40% chance of being either of them, with the remaining 20% chance reserved for any random off-banner unit in the regular summoning pool. Bear in mind that we are getting 10 free summons per day on the regular hero banner for the first week of this update. So if you carried any banked pity from last month into this month, hoping to use it on Gunn or Patricia, don't forget to use that up before doing your free summons, because you may go over to the regular hero banner, use your 10 free pulls, and that will actually break your pity by getting you a surprise Gerald and Layla or something on that banner. So ideally, you'll want to blow your pity first, and then start using those 10 free pulls to start banking up new pity for next time. In other news, we also get 2 gear drops this week. Grenshiel, a formerly meta unit who isn't quite meta anymore, gets a hat that prevents enemies with less mobility than her from preemptive striking her. And it also gives a cooldown bonus when you use a skill against an enemy with a move debuff. Elise, a non-meta unit who still isn't, gets an accessory that increases damage if there's a key nearby, and stuns a target before battle if they're standing on a key when you attack them. This month's new casting skills are posted in their usual spot on my community page, and with that, let's get started with Patricia. Patricia is a mage. Whenever she deals damage, she has a chance to apply up to 3 stacks of a fixed damage debuff with a max total 5 stacks at any one time. Kind of like the evil version of Lightbringer's stacks. Whenever debuffs get cleansed from the target, they prioritize these little shit stacks from Patricia first. Her unique 1-cost skill can be used actively to remove a couple of debuffs and heal Patricia up, also refreshing the cooldown of her skills by 2. If she doesn't choose to actively use this skill, it can also trigger automatically if she attacks an enemy and takes enough damage to leave her below 30%. Her unique 2-cost skill is a 3-range, 1.6 damage single target attack that gets increased damage for every debuff on the target up to 30%. Her 3-cost skill is one of those that swaps back and forth between 2 skills. The first is a supportive one that grants nearby allies +1 mobility, immune to mobility reduction, and the ability to slap one of Patricia's talent debuff stacks on an enemy before combat. This group buff lasts for 4 turns. After you use it, it switches to a 0.4 times damage AoE that also heals allies. The fun thing about this second form is that it gives her a passive kind of like Sagany's Owl. Her skill range is 2 spaces around any enemy with 3 or more of her talent debuffs, or around any ally with her other 3C boost. So the theory is to speed up some allies, send them in, and then blow up around them. She's a member of Empire's Honor, buffed by Bernhardt, Leon, Lance, and Rosenseal, Mythical Realm, buffed by Gizaroff, Sage of the Trees, and Isolde, and Princess Alliance, buffed by Luna, Shelfaniel, and Christiane. For bonds, she unlocks the defensive bonds for her bannermate Gunn, and for the upcoming new tank Tyrantel. For her own bonds, she needs Roland for her defensive bond and her bannermate Gunn for her attack bond. For content, she's primarily a PvP unit, but thankfully, given the last few months, she's not one of those must-have top-ban PvP units. More like a squeeze someone else out of your box if you get her and want to build her PvP unit. She will be another combo option for the rash of upcoming rush boxes that we're about to see after the Queen of Ice comes out. Pair her with the Queen, or Polyol, or basically anyone who can get in the enemy's face and live to tell the tale. For her build, she doesn't really need Breeze, since she can do all of her damage without rushing in herself. Her threat range is basically her allies breezing. So something like Full Moon for stats, or Clock for RNG on her 3C AoE will be good for her. Same story with Scepter of Divinity, she doesn't really need it, so she can use Nightbloom for all the int and to get some additional debuff stripping from her 3C if needed. The usual mage armor and helm options apply, with Star Crown being a newer go-to for any magical DPS, and then your int accessory of choice. Holy Ring if you want to avoid getting preemptively silenced by a stray black hole in AoE wars, or Vidar's Rose if you want to just load up your own AoE potential. She does have Crystal Warlocks, but Dropnir hasn't really been a thing for a while with the disappearance of physical assassins. Next we'll move on to Gunn. Gunn is unfortunately not Xylo. He is a demon class physical DPS Wolfman though. His talent gives him plus 30% damage and heals him by 30% of his damage dealt after battle. Similar to Patricia's 3C, the rest of his talent cycles through a couple of effects. He starts with Werewolf Power, which gives him plus 2 mobility and a revive to 20% if he dies. His revive is also what triggers his talent flip from Werewolf Power to Vengeful Wolf. In this second form, his normal attacks hit twice, he can't be counterattacked, reflect damage is reduced by 100%, and he can't be healed by allies. So long story short, he comes back to life with 20% HP, and he can freely double attack into his targets without fear of killing himself. Even though his allies can't heal him, his talent still heals him by a chunk of the damage he dealt, which should be a lot with 2 attacks. If he heals himself back up to 80%, then his talent switches back to Werewolf Power, including the revive, but with a permanent and stackable 30% reduction of his self-healing. So, yes, he can keep reviving, but the gradual reduction of his self-healing makes it harder and harder for him to get up to that 80% threshold and flip back into revive mode. This also gives the enemy a longer and longer window to kill him. His unique 1-cost skill is a simple passive that gives him Terrain Master when he's in Revivable Wolf mode, or the ability to move through enemies when he's in Angry Wolf mode. He has a 2-cost AoE that jumps him to a spot within 3 spaces, deals AoE damage within 2 spaces, and then heals him based on how many targets he hit. He also has a 2-cost single target that teleports to an empty space around a target up to 4 spaces away and hits them. If the target has no adjacent allies, then they get stunned before battle. Finally, his 3-cost skill passively makes normal attacks reduce the cooldown of all of his skills by 1. When used actively, it's a 1.8 times single target melee attack that strips 5 buffs before battle. That's nothing we haven't heard before. It also does some fixed damage and gives him an aura that reduces all nearby enemies' mobility and makes them unable to guard. He's a member of Yales Legends, buffed by Landius and Sigma, Meteor Strike, buffed by Zerida and Epsilon, and Strategic Masters, buffed by Ultimuller, Lanford, and Grenshiel. For bonds, he unlocks the attack bond for his banner mate Patricia, and for his own bonds, he just needs Patricia for his defensive bond. For content, in PvE, he's on faction against Phoenix and Scylla in the Eternal Temple, and Jormungandr, Sleipnir, and Needhogg in Ancient Beckoning. In fact, he is a new member of the highest scoring leaderboard teams for Sleipnir. Even though his conditions seem a little awkward, he's basically a double attacking unit like Brenda or Elaine, which of course is a huge boon in a mode where you have to do as much damage as possible in a 99 turn limit. He hasn't typically seen too much play in PvP. He doesn't have an act again, so he's basically a 6-move demon unit with no guard ignore who's pretty easy to kill after he revives. That said, when his first talent buff is up, that is 6 base move, plus his teleporting attack that moves him an additional 4 spots to a target and then attacks them. The fact that he also has a revive with this means that he can kind of yeet in and then be an anchor for other units who rely on that kind of thing, like Patricia or Zerida too. That said, I think you're going to be hard-pressed to find someone to drop out of your box for that particular gimmick. For his build, his Ancient Beckoning kit would be Blazing Sun, of course, with Crystal Stinger, Carbon Fiber armor and helm, and the Edge of Memories CD reduction accessory. For normal, non-Ancient Beckoning use, why would you do that, but Breeze and whatever borrowed gear you want to throw on him. As a demon, he could use Wings, but you probably have 10 units who'd be higher up the Wings priority list than him. Alright, let's move on to the notes for Noobs. Patricia is a magical side grade for PvP. She'll be fun and powerful in the right box, but she's not needed. She'll be more important for Tyrantel's bonds later on, but thankfully she does return on another raid-up banner alongside Andriole during the Tyrantel update, so you'd probably have a much easier chance picking her up then. The other character that you risk summoning instead of her would be Andriole instead of Gunn, which is a positive. And if you already have Andy starred up, then you could potentially summon him a couple times and just trade him in for Patricia's if you have really bad luck. Gunn is pretty much just Sleipnir leaderboard tech, and that will move us on to my notes about upcoming banners. The other banners of the update are a raid up featuring Oboro and Roland, and Destiny banners featuring Zerida, Tatalia and the Girl in the Shell, Helena, Florentia and Betty, and Ledin, Rachel, and Altamuller. We'll also be getting the usual Langrisser 1-3 and Langrisser 4-5 wish lists, as well as an actual beefy wish list with all the characters up to and including Elise and Tormilk, and an equipment wish list. Overall, it's a relatively skippable month, which is good because next month should be the launch of the Guyver crossover banner, which is also somewhat skippable, unless you're a huge Guyver fan, of whom there aren't many, but I'm one. There are literally dozens of us. Anyway, that's it for this episode. My plan is to pull one SSR to dump my carried pity, and then be done with the banner. Hopefully I get Gunn here because then I can pick up Patricia on her later safer banner with Andy. After that, I save up for a Guyver Superfest next month. Let me know what your summoning plans are in the comments below, or as always on the Tone Discord, where incidentally all the information about all the upcoming major updates can be found. Link is in the description below. Give me a thumbs up while you're down there. Thank you so much for watching. I wish you all the best of luck, and I will catch you in the next Should You Summon. Extra special thanks, as always, to our Langrisser tier channel members for generously supporting the channel directly. Shout out to Levitt, Katesoon, Jared Portela, Jerome Meyer, and the Midland Guild for not making me 100% reliant on YouTube's aggressive ad monetization policies. Ugh. Thanks everyone.